The Hound goes on the hunt. Brienne and Jaimie have a moment, and Arya Stark is no one no more. It's Game of Thrones, Season 6, Episode 8. No one. Alright, spoilers ahead, just so you've been warned. Alright, so we got sort of a nice episode this week, sort of a little mix of storytelling setup and action going on as well. So speaking of action, let's start off with the Hound. And I love just the introduction of him in this episode where it's just, we've got those little group that's just sitting around the fire and the Hound just walks right up, no statement, no words, no questions, just lays waste to him. I mean, he does ask the questions of the last one, and I loved it. He's, you're gonna die. The guy just insults him. It's like, you know how to die for shit. It was just sort of a perfect little Hound statement right there. And then, of course, he eventually does run into the remainders of the group, though they have already been captured by Beric and the rest of the brothers, who are holding them for account. They are not representing what the brothers are trying to do, and they are straight out hanging them. And I love the little negotiation of lives there between Beric and the Hound. I thought was quite hilarious. And even all of the dialogue right there, it was just, there is a beautiful, honest directness to the Hound. And there's certainly been a shift of character as it, his agreement of the negotiations, the little sit and lunch and conversation with Beric and the Hound right afterwards, I think really kind of frames the sort of movement the Hound has done. We're not saying that he is a perfect person, but there is a reason why he has actually been removed from Arya's list. And I think this sort of shows that arc. Yes, he is still a fighter. Yes, he is still a vicious man in that sense. But he's not necessarily a bad man. Not anymore. I don't think this even now is the same Hound that stole the silver from the old man when he was roaming the countryside with Arya. I think that was part of his arc. And then that whole time with Arya, and then his defeat at the hand of Brienne, and then being pulled back from the brink of death by Ian McShane's character. I think all of this has really reformatted the way that the Hound is approaching. And so now he actually has a group that he can be part of. With Beric and the rest of the Brothers Without Banners, there is sort of a code with them, and I think it's something that is appealing to the Hound right now. He's kind of lost and looking for some connection. Yeah, I mean, killing these guys is just a way to wrap up that last storyline, but really it gets him nicely into the brothers and Beric's realm. And I just think the whole conversation, the whole back and forth, the whole trading of barbs there, I thought was just beautifully done, a great example of character. And I'm really excited to see where the Hound comes forward here, especially if we end up seeing him fighting alongside Jon Snow and Sansa Stark to try and take back Winterfell. Would just, that will be amazing to see. Now, moving from one brother to the other, let's take a look over at the Mountain with Cersei. And we finally get to see the Mountain let loose. Unfortunately, just for a moment, as the Faith Militant try to bring Cersei back out of the Red Keep, and she, of course, is not having any of it. And just a great moment where that spike mace just goes right into his armor, and he doesn't even flinch, doesn't move, nothing. The rest of the Faith just sort of back off. And unfortunately for that one poor man, it is the end as the Mountain just rips his head clean off. Well, not clean, it was kind of messy. Making a statement, again, I choose violence. That was beautiful. But of course, it comes back and stabs her in the back as news of that gets back to the High Septim, the High Sparrow, who has a little talk with his now king in a pocket, who makes the statement of, well, we are going to have this trial. It's going to be the Queen Mother, and it's going to be Loras, and there's not going to be any trial by combat. That's not right. And in a way, there's a correctness to that just having people that have a strong fighter being able to get away with anything isn't really proper. However, this was everything that Cersei was banking on, was having the mountain to fight for her, that this would be her defense. So as with many things that she has done, they end up stabbing her in the back, bringing in the High Sparrow, hoping that that would help adjust stuff in the court. That stabbed her in the back. The use of the mountain in this one little moment is now going to deny her the use of the mountain in in her trial. So much like Olenna Tyrell has pointed out, we're facing our downfall, and it is all your doing. This is really a point of focus for Cersei. But it may not be the end for her, because as Qyburn has mentioned in that last little moment, the rumors that you want to be investigated are true, greatly true. And for a moment I thought that he might have been referring back to finding Tyrion, or the thing with Khaleesi. But there's a lot more likelihood that it's a possibility that he was referring to the wildfire stores that the Mad King had placed underneath King's Landing. If we remember, the Mad King was had this crazy fascination with wildfire, and his plan was actually to burn King's Landing down if Baratheon and the rest of the kings during the big uprising had entered King's Landing. And that is where Jaime steps up, kills his pyromancer, and then stabs the king in the back, leaving the title of Kingslayer on Jaime's doorstep right there. But really, and that's one of the great moments of Jaime's character, I think, is he's never really brought that up. He discussed it with Brienne, but I think that might be the only person that he's talked about this with, that he really saved a bunch of lives by killing the king that way, by turning on his oath. But, like I said, I think this is probably what Cersei may be going in for, because while her revenge against Tyrion and Sansa, much like the opening play bit had sort of alluded to, is definitely on her mind, it's not the most immediate thing. I think her immediate thing is survival and getting rid of her immediate enemies that are threatening her. And if she has access to wildfire, especially because it's all stored in hidden places beneath King's Landing, if one of those storage spaces happens to be the Sept, happens to be right underneath the High Sparrow's bed, that could solve a lot of her problems straight away. So we're going to have to sort of wait and see what happens with that. Now, of course, someone else has a secret, and that is Varys. He is off on a secret mission to try and get ships for Khaleesi, leaving Tyrion all by himself, which is sort of sad. I love the two of them together. They work really nicely. And I like that little moment that they had just before leaving. One, we get to see that the Red Priestesses are doing their job. They are spreading the word of Khaleesi, bringing the peace to the city, doing that job right. And even the little bit of like, well, if I'm going to go on a secret mission, I can't leave with the most famous dwarf in the city here. Most famous dwarf in the world. I mean, just, again, Tyrion's little moment of just bringing that up. And just to continue little bits of moments between them. Now, where Varys is off to, that's hard to tell. Is he off to Eugen over at the new king of the Iron Islands? Is he off to speak with them? Is he going to meet with Yara and Theon, which is sort of what I hope is going to be the case, and bringing them into the fold. But really, these scenes, the scenes with Tyrion, are just really, I think, meant as placeholders, just really holding the space, bringing things along until we have the Master's fleet alive and Khaleesi's big return, which I loved, landing with the dragon on top of the pyramid and then just sort of walking into the top pyramid entrance. That was beautifully done. And the scene of comedy and jokes between Tyrion and Missandei and Grey Worm, they were nice, they were amusing, they were fun, but again, I really think this was just place filler to set up Khaleesi's return and, of course, the Master's fleet attacking Meereen. Or Tyrion just straight up answers, hey, I was wrong. I made a call. It was wrong. Sorry. At least he's honest and straightforward. Now, I did think that this might have been the Iron Fleet. This might have been Yara and Theon coming in, because we did hear that rumor at the end of last episode from the captain of the ship that Arya was trying to hire to get back to Westeros. He did say that the Iron Fleet was in Slaver's Bay. He might have been referring to this fleet and not so much of Yara's fleet. They may be something different. My error. I will admit that. Much like Tyrion, I'll admit my mistakes. But this could lead to an interesting little point is we do have Drogon and the dragons could just fly down and just burn the ships that are there, but we could have Yara and Theon's fleet actually come in from behind and kind of trap the Master's fleet there between the two of them. And that would be a great statement for Yara to say in order to approach Dany and say, hey, I've got ships for you. Let's go. I can take your people over, especially since you just arrived with that big Dothraki horde. So probably going to have to wait until the last episode, episode 10, because episode 9 is always the big battle, and we'll get to that at the end of this review. Now, hopefully I did all of that quick so I can spend a little bit of time dealing with Jaime and Arya's two little bits of stories. And the reason that I want to spend a little bit of time with Jaime is, one, it's great seeing everybody there. Just seeing Brienne show up bit, her conversation with Podrick showing up, Bronn messing with him. And I actually, it's been a while. I had actually forgotten Bronn or Podrick's whole little time with Bronn and with Tyrion and the joke about him with the ladies and everything like that. It was kind of fun to have that reminder and really see that dynamic around. And also how Podrick's sort of growing up a bit there and having those moments with Bronn. And yeah, I'm learning, but I'd like to learn your stuff too. Just the little dialogues there, the little bits, I love these are characters that I think really work well together. And writing-wise, they've got to have a lot of fun with the interaction of these two and kind of this whole group. But then we also have Brienne and Jaime, and that was a really powerful scene in so many ways. There was so much stuff that was going on because not only is she negotiating for the freedom and trying to deal with all of those political differences that two of those characters have, but there is that really strong connection. I know there's a lot of thoughts of shipping, Brienne and the Wildling up north, but there really is that strong kind of connection between her and Jaime, and it's not. I think there is a level of attraction there, but there is also so much kind of respect. I mean, even to the point where when Brienne is finished with her old proposal and just is like, all right, well, here's your sword back. You gave me this to do my mission, and I completed my mission. And for Jaime, I mean, first who throws out God, I didn't think you'd ever find her. Just thought I'd be sending you off to do this thing and get you safely out of the way, which is a noble approach as well, because she certainly wasn't safe at King's Landing. But just that moment where he's like, it's yours. I gave it to you. It's all, it'll always be yours. There's really that respect and connection, and they had that moment when they were standing at the entrance to the tent, and where actually I looked over to my wife and I was like, that's the kissable moment right there. That is the moment where there would have been the little lip lock action happening, but they don't, and I think it's good that they don't because it carries that tension forward. I also think that might have been an odd release, and sort of this is kind of where I'm going, because there's that discussion that he has with Edmure Tully about going in to take over Riverrun. And I really think Jaime starts out trying to be the nice guy, but Edmure just keeps poking at him and poking at him. And yes, Jaime has done some bad things, but he has had sort of a great arc of improvement and self-reflection over the past couple of years, which has been wonderful to see. It's turned Jaime into one of my favorite characters on the show, to be honest. But I think that constant poking and prodding turned him. I'm not sure if Jaime was really going for the full threat and statement when he went in. But he does have a great point. By using the anger that Edmure has against him, he can easily turn that around, which he does, and just says, all right, fine, enough of the pleasantries, enough out of the way. I love my sister, and you can laugh all that you want. Again, just throwing all of that out. But I want to get back to her, and I have no problem killing every last Tully in order to do it. And that was his statement. Go in, get me the castle, and you can all live. I won't attack your people. I won't do any of that. It'll all be fine. Don't do it. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to lay waste to every last Tully and every last one of you. Powerful statement, and I think that is using Edmure's hatred against him in a really fine way. And I'm not, the main thing I'm getting to this here is I'm not sure if that is so much of the truth. I'm not sure if his motivation is so much just to get back to Cersei, but also to save Brienne. Because if he has to attack and Brienne doesn't get out, he's going to have to face her on the battlefield. And I don't think that that's something that he wants to do. I think that is really something that he was trying to avoid. And by making this deal with Edmure, it saves Brienne. It gets him what he wants, but it saves Brienne. And I really think that that might have been one of the prime motivators for him to do that. Now, of course, the Blackfish should have taken Brienne's deal when she first offered it. And I love the little moments there with him as well, as, as he's putting out, I don't know you, I don't know where you're coming from, I haven't met Sansa. But it is the sword that Jaime gave her that snapped him back into it, where he is throwing in her face, yeah, well, what about this sword that you got? That's obviously a Lannister sword. And she's like, yes, it is. And he gave it to me to find Sansa. And I did that. And now I'm coming back to you. I mean, it was a great way of extending those moments of everything of the interaction between Brienne and Jaime and really solidifying Brienne's position, and which ends up really kind of saving her as Blackfish leads her to the little escape port to take the boat away. In his line, I haven't fought in years, I'm probably going to embarrass myself, and he certainly does. We don't get to see any of that. We just hear that he's dead. But it does, again, lead to that last little moment as Podrick and Brienne are moving away, and Jaime's up there on the battlements all by himself, just gets to see it. You see, he kind of looks around to make sure nobody else sees, and then, bye, little golden hand wave, bye, and shoot a little wave back. It's maintaining those little moments and connections, and it was there where I was really seeing, yes, he loves Cersei, and yes, he is capable of darkness, but I think he was not bluffing, but using that anticipation again, using Edmure's hatred against him. If you think I'm the bad guy, here's how bad I could be. Do you want to see that? And it serves its purpose. So, yes, we're going to have Jaime going back to King's Landing, which will be great because it'll be in time for the trial most likely, and then we get to see all of that, but it maintains that connection between Jaime and Brienne, which I'd like to see develop down the road. I'm not sure where Jaime's fate is going to be at the end of this big story, but if he's with Brienne, I think that would be all right. And lastly, we have Arya's story. Not doing too well. But I love the opening bit, like I mentioned before, the opening little bit of focusing on the actress, having that moment as Cersei over the body of her son, really doing that strong emotive. Again, that really pulls us in, and that really gives us a connection in with this character in a way that not having that scene, I think, would have just thrown her in as just, okay, here's this actress. But we get to really, because of her powerful performance, we really get to connect with that. But all of that aside, she apparently has her own little bit of dark story, stabbing and healing boyfriends and becoming very good at both, to which Arya comments out. And this is really the only safe place that Arya could have gone. She doesn't really have anyone else. She doesn't really know anyone else. It's the House of Black and White where she has been at. So this is the only other person that she has any sort of connection to. And the Lady owes her, for sure, because she saved her life. So now we get to sort of return the favor in a nice little sequence of scenes. Unfortunately, the waif does return and finish the job that they were originally hired to do, despite the other actress now not being able to act much, considering what has happened to her face. I'm guessing a little probably slicey knife action would have been my guess, but we don't get to find out exactly what that is. And a nasty death by her, like the waif said, if you had poisoned her, it would have been easy, but there she's like bent over backwards, crushed on the stool she was standing. I don't know. It looked nasty. Just a brief shot, looked very nasty. Not the way to go. But apparently her repair job was really good on Arya, who is now able to convince a giant parkour chase scene through the streets of Braavos. Which was cool. Again, cool, but it seemed a bit much, considering, stabby in the belly. Those are not easy wounds, and apparently, I guess, not really life-threatening. Maybe the Waif didn't do that great of a job, but that's also surprising. So, there's some obvious things they just kind of like put to the wayside in order to get the action and the story moving forward, and I'm kind of all right with that. But just an amazing parkour. Again, just Arya seems to be very well healed. Whatever the milk of the poppy did with those little bandages seemed great and held certainly all the way up until the giant crash on the steps, where you can finally see the blood starting to pour out of her stomach again as she opens up the wounds. But she is not. Arya is not finished. And she is just sort of leading her in, just sort of suckering the Waif in. Follow me, follow me, follow me. Here's the trail to lead her into the little room that we saw at the end of last season with the candle. And it looks all over with until I love the scene where she just comes up, salutes, and takes the candle out. Because Arya's been blind and the Waif has not. And Arya probably spent some time in that room training and feeling exactly the breadth of the room, how far everything is, how everything sounds, accentuating herself to that room so that she could do what needed to be done, which is finally take out the Waif. And then returns her face to the house in black and white, which was a beautiful little scene as well, because you're wondering, is it the Waif bringing Arya's face? I mean, we know it's not, but, we were given that moment. You could sort of see what was happening. And the last standoff between her and Jaqen, actually, with the acknowledgement, yes, I did send her off to kill you, but hey, here you are. And you have done it. You are now finally no one. To which Arya has the great return line. A girl is Arya Stark of Winterfell, and I am going home. Boom shakalaka! That was the power of that scene, and she turns around and walks away. So we now have Arya, fully trained as an assassin, heading off. Bye. Thanks for the murder training. See you later. It was just beautiful. I loved seeing it. That was definitely a fist pump moment. So Arya is on her way back to Westeros, heading back to Winterfell. So we are going to have some great family meetings coming up in the future. But that, of course, we'll probably have to wait until all the way into next season, because it's quite a bit of a journey to Westeros. And there's a lot going on at Winterfell, or there's about to be, and that is going to be next week. Next week is the Battle of Bastards, where we have the giant battle attempting to retake Winterfell. Jon Snow on one side, Ramsay Bolton on the other, going at it. How much is it going to be battle of armies, and how much will it's going to be a battle just between them? That's going to be exciting to see. But that's probably going to take up, it's episode 9, it's the big battle episode every season. This is where we're going to be. We're going to be at Winterfell next week. And we, of course, are going to be talking all about that right here. If you liked what I had to say today, hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe. Button right over here. Go ahead and hit that. It's in red. Comments in the section below. What did you think? You can catch me on Twitter. I'm, of course, at Darren Jakes. Other than that, I'm D, and I am out of here. I will see you guys next week. Hope summer's going well for you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.